Hey guys, I'm Lighty, and a lot has been coming out in this past day and a half of updates and things for Echoes of the Atlas. So I'm just going to go over all of it very briefly. If you want to read the full articles, I'll put them in the descriptions below, but I'm just going to gloss over some of the key points as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so first off is the balance manifesto. So this is the basic balance. Ascendancies, a lot of them have been changed, a lot of them have been rebalanced, including notables and even the small nodes, and we'll look at those a little bit later on. Aura stacking is being addressed to a degree. They've greatly nerfed how the scaling of alt quality auras work when it comes to scaling with aura effect. This is one of the biggest parts coming into Heist. So things like the divergent determination giving you way more armor, or things like the alt quality grace giving you element immunity. Those things are no longer going to be basically in full form, which would be a decent blow to aura stacking. Subsequently, we've also had about 50% nerf to the percent of aura effect on the cluster jewels. So it goes from like 8% to 4% for the nice jewels. And then they also nerfed Stalwart Commander and First Among Equals to a degree. This all combined, I would say, effectively kills aura stacking for solo self-found, but I don't think in any way will kill aura stacking for Trade League. I think it just is going to cost 2 to 3 times as much. It'll be half as good. You know, if my Ferrari can only go 80 miles an hour compared to 180, I'm still cruising on the back roads, so I'm not too worried. Aura stacking should still be working just fine, especially going into Harvest. So there you go. Impale was changed. It was nerfed the ability and persistence of the call skills, but Impaler got buffed to kind of rectify that change, it looks like. Minions got hit. Some of them got hit pretty hard. Golems, Kara, and Stone got nerfed in multiple facets. Spectres got nerfed in multiple facets. They of Tull, the Spectres that the Snowcloak ones from Tull, they pretty much got obliterated. You don't have the less damage multiplier, so they're just like worthless. Rotten Claws and Renewal got nerfed, and they're buffing Skeletal Mages. So, you know, if you're going to play Golems, it won't be as good. If you're going to play Spectres, they won't be as good. You can still play both, that's fine. Also, Syndicate Operatives no longer Echo, so those are pretty much dead. But Frost Sentries are fine. You know, Slave Drivers will probably still be fine. Redemption Sentries will probably still be fine. So again, I think that down below is probably the best way to do it, and maybe Baron if you really want to invest high amounts of currency, but yeah, Minions will be worse, but not dead. A few gems got buffed. You'll see more later on, but some of the notable ones are Cobra Lash, Scorching Ray, and Frostbomb. I don't know who asked for Frostbomb to be buffed or who wanted it to be buffed, but you've gotten that. Previously, Frostbomb was pretty much just slapped into a Cost Breeze as the third link, and I think that's probably still be the case, but yeah, there's that. Earth Shatter got nerfed some, was pretty fucking strong. Contagion AoE nerf, pretty fucking strong. A couple of uniques got shit on. Replica Nebulous had his damage like halved. Alberon had his damage dropped by like 40%. And Martyr and Disintegrator just had their reworking, so they work with Battle Mage better. A couple alt quality nerfs and clarification on some phrasing. Farshot is slightly better. Tailwind is way worse. And Elemental Aegis now works as if you had no interruptions for damage, so that'll be quality of life. Moving on to the Atlas passive tree we have coming out. There's multiple different zones, all with different modifiers. Some of them do carry over to 2 different zones. Some of the more enticing ones are, for me, the Harvest ones. Anything involving Harvest is super cool. Higher chance to grow tier 4 plants is very nice. All the Bestiary ones are super cool. Chance to have Bestiaries replace Beasts. Won't be a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's just like the equivalent of gaining a lot more Beast is pretty enticing. 20 rares in the zone being possessed by monsters and their minions are touched is like huge quantity modifiers if you actually think about it. Delirium bosses having a 100% more likely chance to spawn and drop clusters. This doesn't mean that it's a 100% spawn rate. This means that if the spawn rate was 1%, it's now 2%. So, you know, good but not crazy. Area contains rogue metamorphs and free metamorphs is pretty cool. Legions are always containing sergeants and warhordes. Syndicate members have a 100% chance to gain an additional rank. This is pretty spicy. And maps have an additional chance to have a blight encounter. Tons of things you should look at. Again, if you want to see the full listing in your description below, go for it. But it'll come for no surprise that you'll have them all unlocked by the time you have your Awakener 8. However, if you want to target farm certain maps in certain regions, not everything is everywhere. So, for example, if you want to do only the Harvest stuff, Rework Hamlet is going to be like a place you'll be targeting. So, keep in mind which ones you want to focus on if it's something you want to invest into, whether it's Legion or Soulfight or whatever avenue, and then just prioritize maps in those areas. But again, look at the whole list if you want to. A lot of cool things. It's pretty in depth, and most of it's just like little sprinkle of little goodness along the way. The Ascendancy rework was pretty nice. Almost everything got some sort of change, even if it's some things just got straight buffed, some things got nerfed, some things got rearranged. I'll just go briefly over what they are and any key points. Slayer got buffed, I would say, across the board, and some things got rearranged, and it says what was removed and what was added, but for the most part, Slayer just got straight buffed. Gladiator got, I think, overall just nerfed. It lost some more damage, it redirected some of its bleed, but yeah, it lost a little bit of more damage, so that's unfortunate. Champion got, I would say, one of the bigger nerfs. Multiple impale nerfs across the board, even some movement speed nerf, 12% movement speed lost there, some evasion and flat armor lost there, gained some impale effect, which is nice, and then redirected some fortify effect, but overall, Champion, I would say, got hit pretty hard. Assassin could be the worst of it all. They effectively, most of their things have been redirected and just swapped around, but the big ones are 10% movement speed loss from power charges, and you lost the 20% movement if you've killed recently. So basically, Assassin has lost the equivalent of a Quicksilver Flask in movement speed, which was one of the key plays. The reason to play Assassin was because you had the quick, go, fast, and you lost 30% move speed. So big bummer there. Saboteur got nerfed for mines, but buffed for traps. I think the biggest thing that was interesting was they lost the reservation nodes, which was frustrating for a lot of people who had mine builds, because that's a huge chunk of it. The cost of reservation for mine builds was really massive, and the cost of throwing traps was reduced as whatever, but they did gain permanent blind on hit, which is kind of spicy. Trickster had an overall nerf yet again. Mana, movement, damage, just kind of lost a little bit here and there. And Harness the Void got buffed, but who asked for that? Juggernaut is interesting because it's a buff if you hit a certain breakpoint, but it's a nerf otherwise. They lost a lot of flat accuracy, some damage and scaling, but they now have accuracy equal to twice your armor. So if you get to the point where you can gain enough armor to break up that accuracy differential, that's great, but not every build can get there. So if you're going to have 400 or 500 armor, then it's a buff. If not, it's probably a nerf. Berserker, God bless its soul, the build I'm going to be starting with, got just buffed across the board, which was, I guess, fine. A little bit of attack speed, a little bit of crit rate, a little bit of a pretty decent amount of recovery, and just free 10 rage. So I didn't ask for it, but I'll take it. Chieftain got buffed but nerfed for RF, so it gained totem damage and it gained area of effect. It gained some more phys mitigation, but lost 2% regen. So overall, I would say it pretty much breaks even with your totems, and if you're just playing straight RF, it's I guess it's a nerf. Necro got nerfed across the board minutely. The biggest thing that was probably affected was the minion duration, and then the 30% damage for consuming a corpse. Everything else is just like little hits here and there. Cultist just buffed across the board. Probably top 3 Ascendancy in the game at the moment, going into Echoes. I think it's just super duper strong, and it has a ton of versatility when it comes to different facets of cold and cast damage and ES, and it's just like really fucking good. So Occultist is spicy. Elementalist overall buffed, but mostly a rework. It was nerfed for golems slightly damage-wise, but minor quality of life increase. The biggest things is, I would say, if you're going to play golems and you're playing Elementalist, you now have a reason to get your Merc Lab, because you can get Bastion of Elements for an Aegis. Previously, it was basically pointless. And certain things are like Shaper of Winter. All hits can chill is pretty spicy, so there are some cool things. You're playing a caster, a crit caster, Elementalist, honestly, in the wake of Assassin being gutted for movement speed, might be a fine choice. Deadeye is very complicated looking for just objectively, but it got, buffed in damage and AoE probably overall, and then nerfed in Tailwind. Tailwind was just very strong. Action speed is very strong, so it got nerfed from that. But it gained some extra projectile, but lost accuracy in AoE. Your projectiles having no spread from barrages, is more single target potentially, and it has things chaining off walls. So it's it's not really a nerf, not really a buff. Depends on the type of build you're playing, but Deadeye is very, very nice looking, I would say, overall. If you're doing Mirage Archer builds, this is very interesting, and anything indoors, the chaining off walls is very interesting. So there's a lot of cool things going on. Raider has, I think, one of the most interesting changes, and it's got 2 permanent static effects that it didn't have before. It effectively had them in clearing, but it didn't have them before. Raider now just has permanent onslaught and increased onslaught effect. Onslaught effect is something that you can invest into on tree. It does exist in some places, and that's just permanent onslaught. So in your hideout, you just have onslaught. It also has permanent phasing and course infusion, and increased chance to dodge attacks and spells. That is very spicy. Not to mention, just nearby enemies have exposure, and there's additional exposure with less accuracy reduction nearby. So Raider, you know, as much as Elementalist might be your basic catch-all caster thing now, Raider could be your basic, I'm playing some sort of fast attack build thing. It's pretty spicy. Pathfinder, I think, got nerfed pretty much brutally a couple places. I mean, it gained the pro. You still have the pro lift. You lost damage. You gained a couple things there. You know, 6% recovery on Life of Flask is whatever the fuck. But I think it overall, I think it just got a hit. It doesn't really seem like it gained a whole lot. It also just, I mean, not that Herald of Agony was a thing really for this, but it got nerfed for some reason. They nerfed Herald of Agony more on Pathfinder, so there's that. Inquisitor was a pretty heavy rework. Overall, it's just kind of different. I mean, whether it's better or not is objective. It depends on what you're trying to do, but you gain more crit, you gain some battle magey things, which is interesting, and yeah, there's a couple of things going there. More crit, more hybrid playstyle, and then overall, the Conscript Ground's a little bit stronger. Hierophant's, it's a 50-50. Again, you gain the power charge thing, that's super nice. But, you know, one of the biggest hits is you lost your extra totem, meaning that a lot of totem builds might feel obligated to run multi-totem, which is, in a way, a DPS loss, even though it might be a clear speed increase, but overall, it's not as cool. The immunity was just moved over here, so you still have the immunity with Arcane Surge, and Arcane Surge stuff got buffed, but overall, this is a 50-50 one. Quality of life-wise, this might be more of a hit than a buff. Guardian, it's interesting. You could almost argue that Guardian got buffed. The power charge increase is higher. The movement speed is better. You lost the damage, but I'd rather have more movement speed anyway in most things. But the interesting part is time of need. So instead, you actually give way more curse effect reduction, but you also get more life, but you lose the ailment and curse removal. However, curse is a hard thing to get reduction on the bulk of your gear, and you can just get ailment immunity on tree and on shaped gear, so it might be worthwhile to now just have curse immunity, but also have to invest into ailment immunity. So overall, Guardian's actually in a pretty okay spot. Ascendant is really interesting because a lot of them just got permanent things, like Raider just having perma-phasing on Ascendant now, or just Deadeye having you have Tailwind. So there's a lot of interesting things like that. You know, Elusive on crit is the same, but you lost the poison. So overall, Ascendant I think got buffed overall, but some things are total shitters. Like, I don't know who the fuck's picking Pathfinder for when you lost the pen. That just seems terrible. But having exposure and then an extra 20% is kind of nice as well. So there's a couple things that are pretty good here. That about wraps up the Ascendancy's overview. Again, check it yourself. It's in the description below if you want to look at the intricate details. And finally, there's a clarification of the Ascendancy changes. They basically just go over that certain things, you know, why they talked about their changes. It's kind of just like jerking themselves in circles. And they talk about tricky part of the game is balance. It's just your fucking job, so I'd expect it so. But either that, there's going to be a big overhaul. The big emphasis here, that tomorrow, being when this is probably coming out on today, we'll having patch notes and a full reveal of the gems. 40 skill gems being buffed in their balance changes is going to be more indicative of where a lot of these metas are going. I don't think the meta is really going to shift that much. It doesn't really tend to. I think the biggest meta will not be from skills, but from ascendancies, because some of them are a lot better than others now. So I would say take a look at that. I'll do a brief overview of the patch notes, but there's not a whole lot going on. I'll mostly focus on the gems when I release that tomorrow. So look at the gems, look at the patch notes if you want, and hope this overview helped you for these 3 different topics. I'm Lighty, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.